Hey everybody, it's Tafony here once again. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me today in the soldering station to check out the DFAM drummer from another mother, the DFAM. Of course, it's a legend and it sounds like this. Okay, before we get started, I need to give a huge shout out, a huge thank you to Mariusz for lending me this one, especially on such short notice. There was a lot of discourse in the Tafony Discord about the DFAM, people professing their love for it, talking about its limitations, basically suggesting that I should check it out because I love my drum modules, and DFAM is, something of one of the most famous modular drum modules, or semi-modular drum modules for sure, and I actually did own it previously, but that was before I was into Eurorack, and my stint with it was extremely brief because at that time I found it really confusing and I didn't really understand it. And coming back to it now, I'm actually kind of seeing why I found it confusing, not because I don't like it, because I can just kind of plainly see here that things when I was a beginner that didn't make sense to me were specific around the labels, and if I can just be like really clear about what that means. Knobs like the VCO decay were really confusing to me before I was into modular. Like now I think, okay, it's a drum module, a VCO decay is obviously going to be like for the pitch band, and the decay would sort of be like the timing of that. How long is the decay? To me as a beginner, I think it would have been really helpful to see like this is your pitch bend envelope, and this is the decay time, right? To just call it VCO decay, I know it sounds like I'm like battling semantics, but this is like just trying to be specific around what was confusing to me. And with saying that, I think what would be a nice way to get started with this video here, one, to explore the DFAM in the most depth, but also to dissect it piece by piece, go over each part individually, try and use it as like a traditional synthesizer to do that. And we can probably explore some elements either by running our sequencer at audio rate, just to keep all of our envelopes all the way open, or hitting trigger and decaying it repeatedly just to hear how it goes. Now I believe it's going to take the velocity information from the step we're on. You can't advance through steps to confirm. Yeah, if I have no velocity, my VCA won't open at all. I think that's also another piece. I want to make a video about the idea of semi-modular on its own eventually, but I need to put some thoughts together. But sort of preliminarily on that front, I think sometimes the way that internal patching isn't labeled is really confusing for beginners. Like, it's easier as you get more used to things to understand, like I kind of intuitively know as you progress that the velocity must be internally patched to the VCA decay based on the fact that, when I trigger it, when it's off, it doesn't make any sounds, but when you turn it on, you do. I think those parts kind of make semi-modular things a little tough for beginners, if that makes sense. Anyway, the thesis of that video is basically that, like, taking the individual pieces with no internal routings can make modular easier to understand, and how semi-modular can make that sort of confusing. But so basically, my idea here, we just want to use our sequencer at audio rates to keep all of our VCAs and our VCFs and all of our other envelopes open, just so we can listen to piece by piece the DFAM to break it down. I don't know why I'm holding a patch cable, because we're not there yet. So VCO decay, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is the pitch envelope because we're running the sequencer at audio rate. We won't get into it, but what I do want to listen to first off is the VCO frequency. So you get two oscillators on here, and they actually can do some really interesting things. Right now we're just going to listen to VCO 1. You get a frequency knob, internally patched to the pitch parameter, obviously, in the step sequencer. And So you have triangle wave. Nothing too interesting there. There's a square wave if you want something a little more brittle. And it really, I don't know if this is unique to the DFAM or what, but the low end, it pummels. Maybe it's just set at a pulse width that just is really pleasing in that low end, but it, yeah. So if I stop my sequencer now, it'll stop. On the first envelope, we get a VCO EG amount. So again, this is where one of those things that I think was confusing to me as a beginner. If I turn my volume up and we'll manually trigger it, you won't hear anything right now, but if you send, your pitch bend is how I think of it in drum modules, but they label it here as VCO envelope generator amount. If you send it positive, it'll go up. Now, if I bring in some VCA decay, because I'm not doing any, my envelope that's internally patched in there isn't doing anything, but if we bring up that decay, you get some ringing out, some pitch bending into the positive direction. So boom, a little bit of zapping, right? So if that's longer, manually triggering it, we're going over to triangle wave now. You get into really zappy territory, which is really cool. And again, like, I just want to point out all these different things that are buried in there because everything is possible with the DFAM, right? Like, if you're using external sequencing enough, if you're modulating enough, like, you can try and make these things happen like per step or more than per step, right? Just to show you what these oscillators can do, right? So we send a negative, maybe I'll pitch it up. Pitch it down and send that. Oh, I guess this is the envelope is reversing. I thought this was sending negative. Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. So it's just reversing that. That's really interesting. And you can get really chiptune-y in the square wave territory. I'm not even in the square wave. Okay, you can get really chiptune-y in every territory, I guess, right? So manually triggering off the square wave will get extra chiptuning. There's your bends. Yeah, okay, so negative doesn't mean sending that same envelope pitching down. It means you're reversing the envelope to you know, it's still going to pitch up. Interesting. If you want kicks, I say, yeah, you need pitch bend. We were talking recently in the Discord about how that means 909, like to be a 909 is like to be an analog kick with pitch bend. I don't know if that's really true or not, but every good kick has some pitch bend. And the DFAM in this setting sounds so fat. Are you hearing this? Like, does it donk? Yes, it donks. It donks with the filter wide open, is what I wanted to say. So there's a kick. We're just listening to one oscillator with the filter wide open, and it donks. So keep that in mind. It sounds killer. Okay, going to the filter, and then I'll get into the second oscillator. If we... It is the Moog filter. Now, I did have a little bit of resonance on there. No shortage of donkiness, though, even with that off. If we filter it, non-resonant, it sounds really good. I hate to, like, not point to anything specific when I say that, but, like, it sounds tasty, if you will. Yeah. And it, like... The complaint, and I wasn't really sure where to put this in order of the video here, but one of the biggest complaints with the DFAM is there's no VCF direct modulation. Like, you can't send an external LFO, or you can't patch anything to the VCF. You can only control the VCF decay here with the same sort of layout as this other one here, where you have basically the length of the envelope and the amount of the envelope. So positive again, or negative, so it's where it's reversed, right? Again, it's still ending up in the same place, obviously, but do you want to reverse that envelope or not? So there's lots of zapping to happening. Lots of zapping to be happening. I don't know what I'm saying, but I hope that makes sense because you can do that. And then on top of that, and I think this is really cool, unique, and interesting, but also kind of bizarre that this makes its way onto here. Not a reset input, which is another huge complaint, and not modulation point of the cutoff directly, which is really cool. But you do get a knob for how much you want to use random voltages from the noise source to modulate the VCF, which is cool. It just gives it this, like, battery donkiness. So, like, if you want a donkey kick, like, it's very much on here. And then the other thing that confused me as a beginner, this VCA envelope generator fast or slow, I thought was like a range, but this actually is the attack of the VCA envelope, right? So again, I think like this, I'm not trying to be really nitpicky about it. I'm just trying to relay like how it was confusing to me in the beginning, but this will change your attack from fast to slow. And I think, at least for the music I make, I usually want that VCA to open really quickly, but you know, obviously to your own tastes. If we make this decay a little longer. So like, I do like to start cut off super low and then use a generous helping of VCF mod to sort of like, it's not the same, but to low pass gate it, right? Like try and really push that filter wide, right? Oh, it's so satisfying just to make it donk, sorry. It's funny, I never thought to use a square wave as a kick, but the one on here... sounds fat, I don't know. Yeah. So we went over VCO1. We haven't gone to the sequencer yet. We went over VCO1 envelope generator, its frequency, the two waveforms. There's a mixing section on here I haven't mentioned yet. You can blend in some noise. It's only white noise. So I know in that Behringer legally distinct, not whatever, the pink one, it has a pink noise source. On here you only get the white noise source, but it is before the filter, so it is like, you know, it's white noise through a filter. It's not pink noise through a filter, but the noise source sounds great. It just kind of, this is, and I won't jump ahead to like the patch bay just yet, but when you're patching in velocity, well, here I am jumping into the patch bay. When you're jumping in the velocity, it's nice, or when you're sequencing with the 8-step sequencer, it's fun to like noodle with this, right? Like start with like basically noise off and then bring it in, right? To like go through steps with the noise down, bring it in, just to like spice it up, right? This filter sounds so good too. I mean, it made Moog famous for a reason. Anyway, so I think with all of that, we've gone through, and obviously the volume knob is just a volume knob. I have it going out at line level right now. We went through the VCA decay, how its envelope generator, its attack speed, the noise mod that goes into that. You can replace this noise source that I was just talking about with an external signal. If you're in a modular system, it's fun to run different oscillators, like I was running the Piston Honda through here, or different noise sources. If you want to just bring your own pink noise source, I compared it to that other device earlier. You can just patch that in here from elsewhere, but yeah, that is in the external audio input. It's controlled by the same mixing section. I saw a lot of things online complaining about these mini pots. Moog makes a kit to cap them basically, so you get not the same size as these knobs, but something similar. I don't have a problem with the mini knobs. They're fine. Like, I've certainly had way wigglier ones, like fiddly. They're fine. I don't know. I wouldn't want to, like, you know, do performance on like pitch sequencing rapidly with it, but I don't really think you would do that. Maybe you would, I don't know. Again, it's just my situation is going to be different than everybody. So on that note, let's move on to VCO2. So same frequency, same envelope generator mount. Now they do share the same envelope generator envelope. Again, that's another piece of things that was just like confusing to me when you're starting out. You're like, well, where is the other second envelope generator coming from? Where's its decay? Well, it's coming from the first one. But on the second one, you actually get FM. So I'm going to try and let's just trigger this. You can listen to it. Right now we're listening to the square wave from the second one. Let's open the filter up all the way. Resonance down. Noise mod off. Just hearing the triangle wave. Here's the square wave. I don't know what they do to these square waves. They're just so fat. But if we bring in that envelope generator again, you get that pitching, that pitch bending. Do it in reverse, which is fun. Go into VCO2. Now, the cool thing about this, though, is you get 2-op FM, basically, right? Or you get like a complex oscillator on here. Now, if we're not listening to VCO1, I'll patch it in a moment. You can hard sync these two. And because I'm not listening, it's kind of extra brittle, but this is interesting because when you do hard sync of them, when you're doing lots of different pitch bending, it can get into like crazy territory of, 2 different waveforms with 2 different pitch bend destinations, right? You get some cool timbres. But if we take off that hard sync and make use of the FM section, so what you can do, if I bring this up to noon, you can get FM. Obviously. It does what it says on the tin, but I think that's really cool because I'll turn my first wave in. And I'm going to use my audio rate again, just to open this up so we can hear. So if I pitch my oscillator up, here's the square wave, do FM over a square wave. I've never really listened to that before. Let's take over. Sorry, again, that was the pitch bend causing it. So we're up to audio rate in our sequencer just to keep everything open. We're going to do 2 triangle waves for some like a complex oscillator with a modulation bus, right? So here comes our volume. You're listening to VCO2 only. If we bring in some FM, that's really cool. So if we switch, I don't know, ever FM to square wave before? I haven't. And then if you envelope generator on top of it, you do less FM amount. You can't reverse this too, so you can only control number 2 with number 1 or VCO2 with VCO1, which is fine. But I wasn't expecting such crazy timbres to come out of a 2 waveform 2 oscillator synth, right? And then if you start envelope generating, let's get our sequence going down now. And this might be my opportunity. So here's no FM, bringing that FM. Try and bring all these different concepts together as we get over to the sequencer. So yes, doesn't sound that great. If we turn this down and get over to our triangle wave, turn up in volume, pitch it up, lots of FM, hard sync on, you get sort of a valley sound. Sounds like the VCOs are trying to reset. Now, I remember when I first was looking at semi-modulars, I was looking at the Moog Mother 32, and I remember thinking 1 oscillator. I don't want 1 oscillator, but DFAM has 2 oscillators, but to hear how wide the palette can be with just 2 analog VCOs with 2 waveforms between them, it's really interesting. And really fun. So now, if we pitch them, you can either pitch 1 and 2. These are all turned all the way down. Let's add some pitch to our 8-step sequence as we introduce the 8-step sequencer. So you can either pitch both 1 and 2, pitch none of them, or just oscillator 2. And you have to sort of think about how high up am I going to do my pitches here. Like if my VCOs are super high or super low, I need to kind of adjust my pitch sequence, but no quantization here. But again, I don't think that's what the DFAM is about, right? It's about sort of exploring, and I know that's like a modular cliche, but I actually really like how it's done here. Bring in some VCO1. Now I'm only pitch modding some VCO2. Let's do VCO1. The thing I'll say on that real quick, though, if you're doing that, you can make use of the FM, right? We're only listening to VCO2, and I can reserve my VCO1 for FM duties, right? How much and where do I want to? Yeah. It's kind of an open canvas. Anyway, if I am sequencing them both at the same pitch, that does mean the ratios of FM are going to jump around in somewhat of an even way. But if I listen to them both now, here comes VCO2, VCO1, here goes out VCO2, here's VCO1. VCO2 in. The square waves, I don't know what they did here, but they are so huge. Filter sounds great. There is high pass. I was going to say I don't see myself using high pass so much that I didn't talk about it, but here does actually kind of sound good. Going to low pass. DJ time. Yeah. Bringing some of that noise mod. It's funny how it's actually modulating the filter, but it ends up sounding like noise itself, right? Right? Bring in that noise now too. Bring my pitch down. Let's go dual square waves. Less noise mod. Yeah. So that's the sequencer in the pitch side. If we have velocity right now, it's just totally open, but because this is internally patched to the VCA decay, we can just noodle with them to kind of give ourselves even more, you know, variation. Modulate your decays, what do I always say? FM out. Maybe just a hair of it. Hard sync on. Sequence both. We're not listening to VCO 1. There's your bleeps and bloops. You're super... pinging this filter, I don't know if it's the shape of the envelope or what, but it just, like, has that... Like, there's no... It's all analog, there's no transient control or anything, right? But, like... I feel like it's just voiced in a way that gives you that punch, you know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of like low pass gatiness in this, despite being like the proverbial East Coast brand. And yeah, complaints about the sequencer. 8 steps I thought was like super limiting, but I just feel like it's not about that. It's about variation, right? It's about randomness. And I think about to the metal fetishist, which was inspired by the DFAM. They decided to forego that sequencer completely in favor of just randomizing steps, which is a totally valid and kind of what you want to do with the DFAM, right? I do love how like exploratory it is. I hate kind of describing synthesizers in that way because like if you don't enjoy exploring it, or I don't know, if the interface doesn't jive with you, then that might mean it's really not a good platform for exploring. But at least for me, in the, you know, being a huge drum fan, this just like feels right. There's no reset on the sequencer, which is also another constant complaint, but I also feel like that plays into that, just like DFAM is not for sequencing, like there's no quantizer, it's not for sequencing a melody, right? It's for like exploring different wildness, right? It's for generating randomness per step, right? For doing stepped modulation, you know? Not for, it does say pitch obviously, but we're modulating, right? So on that note, if we take our pitch output, which is vocal octave, and modulate our noise level, we can do some fun stuff with it. I don't know, let's just take our outputs, like our velocity sequencing, and use that for something else. This is where people always bring up, and I totally agree with this, that the lack of a cutoff patch point is kind of a bummer, because it would be really nice to just like come in here and, you know, patch my velocity to the frequency cutoff is the first thing I thought of, but you know what, that's okay. We can change the decay. We can output those bloops into the external audio in and listen to them for some little pop-in. When we don't want to use the trigger, we're going to stop our sequencer completely. We can modulate the velocity with a velocity, but we don't want to do that. We can modulate the VCO1. So you can do FM on top of the FM. And then if we're FMing 2 with 1. Yeah. Give me my noise source back. Yeah. So yeah, those are all the components that make up the DFAM. They do make a actual resettable module. I saw on Modular Grid that you can't, like, it'll count the 8 steps and then always like keep track of them in a way that, like, whenever it stops receiving clock, it'll just use this advanced trigger to push them to the end. I think it's kind of like missing the point of the DFAM, right? If you want to use it in a way that's like super sequenceable, like to that degree externally, I would probably be picking up the Mother 32 and just like doing all of these functions yourself. You know what I mean? And you can trigger it manually, right? If I stop this, it's the same as this one, but you could send it volt proactive into the pitch input on the VCO1, I believe, have them hard sync, have it follow it, and make a voice out of it. But like, I don't know, I just feel like the jamming, the like, I don't know, the linear sequencing of it is kind of what the point is, right? I don't think it's, you know, there's better solutions for making bass lines and melodies. Now, some people do love it, and it sounds great for that. There's a reason why so many solutions to that problem have been proposed, but I think it's awesome on its own. Just enjoy. Less FM. FM off. Might be fun, actually, if there was a way to disable steps. That might be interesting. I think that's also something the Metal Fetishist did, didn't it? Yeah, you know what? The people were right to suggest this to me. I really love it. Yeah, I don't know, my modular drums. I feel like this is just like my favorite thing about exploring analog synthesizers. Well, exploring any modular synthesizers. Anyway, I'm Tafony. I think at least for me, DFAM does live up to the hype. It sounds awesome. So, all right, thanks for joining me on this one. Like, comment, subscribe, do all of that crap that YouTube is always on my case but not promoting to you. And I'll see you in the next video.